Good morning, Dudley. It looks like the spring weather has finally come to an end.
I think so. It took long enough to get here, that's
Oh my
for
God,
sure.
that wind would just go right through you.
Absolutely.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Conrad.
So what kind of a drone does your nephew or cousin have?
I don't know. All I know is it costs $1,500.
Well, what's kind of interesting is you really got to know what you're doing, because if you're in an area near any airports, we use a
Oh,
guy.
it shuts
who's
you
a-
down.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And
you
people-
can't go up.
Yeah.
It has
pretty
an
interesting.
automatic,
Oh, it'll shut it right down?
yep,
Yep.
you cannot gain any altitude. I had one for
Did you?
3 years. Then the nav system broke, and you can't get them fixed.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. And I didn't want to spend another $1,500 to buy another drone.
It's easier to contract it out, I
Yeah,
think.
that's exactly right, it's easier to contract it out. So is there anything new that we should know about?
The only thing new is Vision came and they're out in the field doing the residential review. And they're registered with the police department.
Good.
That's about it. I think we're at, if I remember correctly, 68,000 so far in new growth, which isn't a lot.
No,
I'm hoping some of the Truman drives and the country clubs will be done
yeah.
by June 30th. A little bit more.
But you should get a little catch-up time with values and stand on top of that, because the transfers have slowed down, that's for
Oh,
sure.
boy.
We're both amazed at the values properties have been selling for. I think people are surprised at
You
what's
know,
going on.
that's a good thing to talk to before we get to the minutes of the meeting. Most people think that when the assessed value goes up, that their taxes go up.
Right.
But it doesn't happen that way, because we can only collect 2.5% of more of the previous year.
Right.
So if you're getting assessed, or if your tax bill is $1,000, then the next year is going to be $1,025. No matter what your value is, the tax rate will now go down to equal out to that $1,025, unless we do a Proposition 2.5 or an override or bond exclusion or something like that.
Right.
It can only go up 2.5%. So when your value goes from $300,000 to $400,000, you didn't pay 25% more in taxes, you paid 2.5% more in taxes.
Right. And that's not per home.
Pardon?
That's not per home. People come in and they say to me, you went up 6% on me, you can only do 2.5. It's the town as a whole, not each individual home.
But typically, unless we change the classification, it's only 2.5%.
Right.
I think it's interesting, too, that people don't really understand that the value of their property is not necessarily replacement cost. It's a combination of looking at all those factors, and when people have income property, part of it is we're going to look at what that property generates for income. It's a total approach to a property. And it's really not our personal opinion, it's the opinion of what the marketplace keeps showing us.
We don't create value, it's the
No.
buying public that creates the value.
Yeah,
And it's the Department of Revenue that certifies that these values are correct. So
Right.
we have, I don't want to say limited input, but we're certainly defined by
We have
parameters.
strict guidelines.
Yeah,
and I think the other part is people have to know it's not an emotional decision. It is by the book that we interpret what features they have in their property, what contributes to the value. It's not whether we like your property, don't like your property.
Yeah.
It's nothing personal. It's a combination of factors to understand.
I can remember when Norma Cash Smith filed for an abatement
Yeah.
when she got her brother's house. And because we were always, she and I, in the real estate business and politically were at odds, was so surprised when we reduced her value. I said, it's not personal, Norma. It's the condition of your brother's house was terrible.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So we reduced the value.
yeah.
And I chuckle when I think about that, because, I mean, we couldn't have been any further apart than people could get.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of interesting too. I think that's one of the strengths we've always brought to the table, even as a board, is that we understand the process, because some of us have been involved in appraising and real estate as a background. And I think that's something that helps us to be a benefit for the town.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you know from being in real estate that appraisers that didn't sell real estate are not as good as appraisers that were in the real estate field, because you can appraise something and sit down and look across it and say, is it really worth that?
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting that people don't realize, even with assessors, I know people in real estate don't recognize, you and we do some of the same classes to be able to understand the process of how to value property.
Yeah, our continuing ed is very not, it parallels yours in some of the same areas, but in any event, I suppose we should open the meeting.
Okay, I make a motion, we approve the minutes for the March 10th meeting.
I'll second that.
I make a motion, we approve the motor vehicle abatement in the amount of $76.90 and 99 cents.
I'll second that.
Make a motion, we approve the April motor vehicle abatements in the amount of $45.06.
I'll second that.
I make a motion, we vote to approve Gateway SLLC FY 2021 reassessment from, can we say the name or do we pass?
Yeah, it's public.
To Brian and Candace Meese. The reason for this is Gateway sold Meese and we missed applying the sale from the deed. The amount is $28.29.
So what was the sale, $2,000?
It was a landlocked piece of
Okay.
property.
I was gonna say for $28 in taxes.
And I think it has a septic system on it.
Well, we're trying to catch every dollar for the town. Vote to abate FY 2021 real estate tax bill in the amount of $28.29. Okay, we just did that, I guess.
Oh, this
That-
one, no, this one is.
What's a different one?
Yeah,
It was, we reassessed to the correct owner.
Okay, so I make that
I'll make
motion.
the I'll second that.
Vote to approve FY 2022 abatement in the amount of $26.91 and corrected an assessment.
I'll second that.
Vote to approve FY 2022 a reassessment to Bremer in the amount of $26.91.
I'll second that.
Make a motion to approve the levy for 2022 motor vehicle commitment number 2 in the amount of $164,861.88.
I'll second that.
Make a motion to approve levy 2022 motor vehicle recommitment number 15 in the amount of
I will
$232.67.
second that.
Make a motion to approve a lien for 61A chapter land lien for 7.61 acres of land on Corbin Road.
This wasn't in 61 before, Lisa?
It was.
Yeah.
It was, but it was, I had to do a new lien because her parents sold it to her.
Okay.
Okay, we need a second on that.
Second?
Vote to approve 61A chapter land lien for the property located on 15 Marsh Road.
That's another new owner. That was Chet Cullis's little house.
Second?
Vote to approve the Farmland Valuation Advisory Commission's average values.
And that's this right here. We always pick average.
Oh, that's what we are. That's what we've been doing for years and years.
Yeah.
Taking the average. I'll second that for sure. So just so the public knows what we just did. 61 and 61A values per acre are created by the Department of Revenue.
Correct.
And so what we're doing is picking, we have below average, average, and above average. So we're taking the middle of the road as average. And again, these are definition or values for like tobacco,
Hay.
sod, nursery, beef and hay, tillable forage, orchards, vineyards and blueberries, Christmas trees, etc. So again, this is the Department of Revenue. If you want to appeal your assessed value, it has nothing to do with us.
Correct.
Did I second that?
Yeah.
If I didn't, I'll second it.
Okay. Vote to approve and sign the contract for real estate research consultants who will be valuing our personal property.
Who are they?
Yeah, I was just thinking
Our
the same thing.
RRC, we hire them to do all our personal property forms of lists.
Well, are they a spin-off from the Reval company?
No. Vision uses them quite a bit. We had a different company about, I don't know, it's like 7 years ago.
Okay.
Okay.
these guys really know their stuff.
Okay.
Oh, that's cheap. That's good. We really don't want to hire someone that doesn't know this stuff.
Let's see, I guess we have no old business, and you want to tell us about new business, huh?
So, we do have a gentleman that's out doing all our building permits. A lot of them are done. He probably has like maybe another 2 weeks, depending on what comes in. Then we have 2 other people out, I was telling you. We're doing 50% of the town field review. So we have somebody doing residential, doing 50% of the town, and then we have somebody doing commercial and industrial, 50%
It's
of
just
the
as
town.
exterior.
Right, they view from the street, making
Right.
sure our neighborhoods are correct and our grades.
Yep. When do we actually do our 90% reval, where we go into, is it 90 or 95% of the houses?
The cyclicals?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, if it passes at town meeting, we're gonna start this July 1st. If it doesn't, and we get it in the fall, we'll start after January 1st, and that'll be the 5-year program.
What's the contract on that?
I believe it was 105,000 for 5 years, so a fifth of that.
Yep,
There was something else I was gonna tell you
that would
about.
be 21,000.
Yes. What was else I gonna tell you about that? Oh, so instead of us going into the people's homes, what we're gonna do is we're gonna send out mailers, which, with all their information, bedrooms, bathrooms, counts, all that, and they'll mark it up
Is
if
that
it's
similar
incorrect.
to the income sheet that we sent out to income properties?
It's just a letter.
Yeah.
It's just a letter with a copy of their construction information. And then, of course, they'll be out measuring.
So will they have the same issue of income property owners? If they don't fill it out, they can't?
No,
Okay. Because isn't that the case, if the income property owner doesn't fill out the sheet, they are disallowed any?
right, yeah, no.
So, to the public, what I just asked Lisa is, we send out income and expense sheets to everybody that owns a 3-family or more,
Over 4.
over 4. And if that owner doesn't comply and fill out the required information, they are barred from any application for abatement
Right.
on that property. Again, that's statute, it's by the Department of Revenue, it has nothing to do with the town of Dudley, it's just, that's part of the Mass General laws.
That one's a $50 fine. The commercial industrials now are charged $250 fine.
Are we the policeman? Who sends out the bill for $250?
I add it to the tax bill.
Okay. Okay,
Oh, and we're supposed to have Vadar up and running by July 1st. That's the bridge to the collector from
oh, this is not
Vision
Star
to the-
Wars,
No.
Darth Vader, yeah, but,
So we're working on that now. Stuff is actually frozen so that we can pull the point data and bridge it over into Vadar. So we'll be up and running for that, and we're getting a new website.
so for the first time in 50 years, we're gonna be able to talk between departments?
Yes.
Wow,
And I can actually
such a
send,
concept.
I could actually send ownership updates over as often as I
So
want.
you don't have to wait till July 1 to do that? Oh, that's awesome.
Because they only get updated twice a year, and it gets really confusing, especially for CMLs.
Yep,
They don't have the updated ownership. So their names are different, or if I delete a parcel, they still have it. If I add a parcel, they don't have it.
again, for the public, a CML is a certificate of municipal liens. When you sell your property, somebody, usually the seller's attorney, will order a CML that makes sure all the taxes are paid, the water's paid, the sewer's paid, any betterments are paid. So this is going to be extremely helpful in streamlining the whole process.
Right.
Although I have to say Carmignani does a pretty good job on getting the CMLs out.
Yeah,
We
definitely.
deal with a lot of towns, and he
Yeah.
does a pretty good job.
I think one of the things also that's interesting even about people understanding with assessing, that we have a full-time assessor who has great credentials and has done all of her requirements, and Conrad is actually a former
Mass
assessor
accredited assessor.
and been involved in appraising, and I think our job is more backup to see if we need to anticipate any problems, to relook at any of the things you want a second opinion, and we don't do actual assessing personally, although years
Not
ago.
anymore, yeah, we used to-
You actually did.
Yeah, we go out and measure the houses and go through and list. Yeah, we've become an advisory board.
Exactly, that's what I don't think people understand, but it does take time to make sure
Oh,
you stay
yeah.
on top of these
Well, I
things.
think when you get the information from the reval company, we then sit down and look at that and say, does that make sense? Because we have fought the reval company in the past, especially over condominiums when everything dropped in the, forget when that was, but in any event, we would have really screwed the tax rate if we didn't do that because of all the abatements that would have gone.
Right.
It would have hit our, but anyways.
And I think it's important in a world that's a litigious society, by our working and having good knowledge and relationships, that we've been anticipating any problems so that the town is not spending a lot of money giving us legal advice, because we're pretty much on top of this thing, because we do care that it is uniform, consistent how it's done, and that the public understands how it's being done.
Right. I don't know of another town that can say since 1978, we had one appellate tax board case residentially. Actually, in anything, other than what the state.
Right, like the Verizon wireless.
Right,
and
yeah,
and
they
New
do the
England
assessed values
telephone.
on those, and so they've been caught, and we've had to put money away for that kind of stuff. But one case in 43 years
Oh.
before the appellate tax board, I don't know of any other town that can say that.
And we won.
And
we won the case.
That's right.
Well,
And we didn't have to involve an attorney, we didn't have to
Yep.
involve an appraisal expert, because we got Lisa as that. So
But we did have the attorney.
well, yes. But that wasn't because of the appellate tax board case.
No.
That was to deal with other things.
Right.
So,
And I think it's important, because if real estate is ever changing what you have to assess. We're seeing in real estate dealing with solar on houses, the impact in a transaction, and you're seeing it for assessment
I am so glad the
purposes.
Department of Revenue gave us some information on solar panels declaring them personal property. Because I don't think some of the appraisers know that. It is personal property. When I first got my license, they used the example of a TV antenna bracket. So the bracket that went around the chimney was part of the real estate, but the antenna was personal property.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was called the law of affixation. So, that's too funny. Things you remember. But anyways, where was I going with all of that?
Well, just about how things have changed and how things get interpreted, I
Well,
think.
I think what people really don't understand, when we do 2022 values,
Yeah.
we're using 2020 sales.
Right.
So we never catch the market going up. We never catch it going down because we're a year and a half to 2 years behind. That's what we have to use, is those values. As
And
those,
I think that's why they started the interims
yes,
in
Yes.
between the mass revals, because if your value was really high, you would be stuck with that value until the third year when we reassess
Right.
the town. So now we tweak them a little bit every year to keep up
Yep.
with the market.
yep. Yeah, that is a huge improvement because they didn't do that when you started.
No,
What was that? For 3 years, you were stuck with that
right.
value.
So if the market was going down and values were dropping, you were stuck with that high value.
Well, I remember when Joanne and I forgot who was on the board at the time, made the decision on condominiums to
Yep.
drop the whole town condominium values as a group. And that saved us, I don't know how much money it saved us.
And the other thing I think is interesting, and I don't think the public really understands, because they're gonna be getting this letters and filling out about their property, that so much today is a cross-check on things that it is important that they keep an accurate record of what their property field card looks like, because now in sales, they find that when they do go to sell, information gets verified, and we are a good source to verify that they did probably get a permit, because if they got a permit, it will come to you to go out and take a look at it, that this has become really critical.
Well, as a backup to the interim stuff, Lisa goes out on every sale with the fire department
Right.
to verify the field card information and its accuracy.
also another requirement of the DOR, not my choice.
Yeah, that's interesting, I didn't realize
I didn't
that.
realize it was the DOR either. Well, they just have to write the DOR.
And the other part that is good is it picks up on condition, because
That's
somebody
right. That's
hasn't been in
exact-
there in a
that's
long
exactly it.
time, and then to condition it, I've got one now, I looked at, and it's, the condition is not what it probably was when someone originally went through. So I think that's important, people don't realize that they have to be their own advocate and participant by giving accurate information.
Just as an aside to this, you know who Zillow is,
Yep.
and they do their Zestimates.
Yeah.
Well, Zillow decided to get into the rehab business, and they use their Zestimates to go out and buy property.
Oh, God.
Last year, they closed it down after having lost $1.5 billion. Billion.
Wow.
Because, just what Joanne said, they were doing exterior observations plus the field card, which may or may not have been updated
Right.
as to condition, et cetera, et cetera. So they lost money on their desktop valuations.
Wow.
$1.5 billion.
Yep. Well,
So,
interesting. It's interesting that it all comes to play, and I know that people don't realize, we're a volunteer committee, so to speak, of what we do, but I think on behalf, for the town, I think we've done a good job of looking out for the town's best interest, for people's best interest in preserving their property, and I think that that's important. That's
We have-
important.
We have very few people filing for abatements. Maybe 10 is the most. And most of those are, they come in and they say, hey, I demoed my pool, why is it still on here?
Right.
And I said,
Right.
well, we don't know unless you go to the building department, get a
Take a demo
demolition
permit.
permit, then I'll get it, I'll go see that it's gone. It's mostly just that. Some people don't even send them in after I explain to them how their property is valued and why it's valued the way it is. So they're getting educated, and I hope that they'll educate their neighbor, so that I'm not the big bad assessor that's just looking for money for the town. I can't do that.
Well, I think it's important that we give you an acknowledgement that we are probably one of the most user-friendly offices to go to, that people, you do explain things I've been sitting in there and listening to how you explain things to people so they can understand what's going on. You don't brush them off. You give them the time and help them to anticipate, which you don't need to do even on abatements, to explain the process and filling out forms, and I think that's important. We still have maintained a relationship with our community and not been detached.
I started as an appraiser in 1983, and we had to go to all the town halls when we did our appraising, because there's nothing online, there was no
Right.
such thing. And boy, I'll tell you, some of them are really, really difficult to deal with. Plus, they're open on the blue moon Friday of, from 6 to 6:15.
Right, yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it was interesting.
Well, I think it's important for the public to understand that they have been very fortunate in that respect, because as you pointed out, we go to a lot of towns and it isn't always that way. So I think
Yeah.
I think it's great. And I do want to compliment you, because you are the exception, I think, in dealing with the public. We used to have courses that they had to take in the
Absolutely.
town hall to be able to deal effectively with
the
different
public?
seminars
Oh,
to deal
my
with the
God.
public. I remember that.
Oh, boy.
And
I can remember being in one assessor's office, and a little old lady comes in to have an abatement filled out, and the assessor there's yelling at her.
Oh, no.
You did this last year, you should know how to do that. I says, come on over here, Bouchard. Well, I filled out the application with her, so.
We do that a lot.
Yeah.
Fill out the
You do.
application. We can get it done quicker. It looks intimidating
Right.
to them because they don't do it every day, and it's just
And
easier.
another thing I want to point out, there's a lot of personal information that people give when they're filing for abatements, and we're not in rummaging through files as a board looking at
No.
that. We rely on your expertise to do
Absolutely.
the screening of, we're not micromanaging, and we're not entitled to look at some of that information, I don't believe. You're the screener on that, you do your job, and then you refer it to us, and if they don't meet requirements, you let us know that, and if you do, you do. So I think that's a big part of what goes on behind the scenes that people don't understand.
It's always been, Lisa, this is the big picture. If you have a problem, come see us. Other than that, just go do your job.
Right.
You know, if it's always been, how do I get my job done with 1.5
Yeah.
people? But,
Yeah, exactly.
but it's been an interesting experience to watch your growth.
Well, I'm already looking at our next meeting, and I'm not gonna be available on that date, so we may need to
Yeah,
hold
I'll
off
be
and
here.
schedule.
All right.
Well, Tom's still
So-
an assessor on June 10th,
Elections are in June.
but it
Oh,
starts July 1st, the fiscal
I
year.
believe it starts July 1st,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right, well then, as long as there's 2 of you here, that's great,
Yeah, I'm almost positive.
yeah.
Yeah,
All
'cause
right.
it's a
The
fiscal.
only thing though is we won't be able to vote on the minutes, so do you want me to just, do you wanna switch a date, or do you wanna just hold it?
Whatever you wanna do is fine
How's
with
that
me.
how's that gonna work now?
Well, we can stay optimistic, we realize that, sometimes people forget to do some of the things they need to do, and hopefully we'll remain a solid board to get our job done, and
I
kinda
think we'll
deal with
remain a
that when we
solid
have
board no
to.
matter what.
This is true,
All right, so I'll see if Tom can do the 10th.
good.
And Conrad, yes.
All right, I'm gonna make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second that.